Betamax. My name is Fidel, joined here by my co-host Birdie, and we have a very special guest today. Person I've known for a while, but haven't really hung out outside of shows. Furn, what's up, Furn?
What's up, dude? How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm good, dude. We're tired. I'm tired today.
Yeah.
It's a holiday weekend. It's a good weekend, but the heat just is. It's soul sucking.
Yeah, it definitely is. I saw you went to what is it, Pasadena Dream Fest yesterday?
Yeah, I went to that yesterday, which was the lineup was great. It was fantastic, but the set times were kind of threw me off a little bit, considering shows are in the evening and fest are all day things. But yesterday we got there at 3:00, and I don't want to be in the sun at 3:00.
Yeah.
Especially on my day off, and but Mogwai was playing around 3:30, so we got there and we watched them. Then right after that was Deftones, like at 4:40 something, and I was just like, holy shit, this is way early. It was cool though, but I would say honestly, by the time they started, like the heat was already kicking my ass, and I was already being old. I was showing my age. I was exhausted. I was tired, and I was just, and it's not even 5:00 yet.
Was that festival like a multiple stage deal?
It was. There was a smaller stage and a main stage, but that small stage was really small considering. I thought it was going to be a little bit larger size. So I think for people who wanted to see the side acts, it was more intimate.
Yeah,
which is great for that kind of setting, especially for that kind of music. The music is not your happy pappy, but for that kind of mood, it seemed perfect. You know what I mean? Even it was covered. It was a tent, so it had that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it had that setting. But I mean, like I said, even on the main stage with everyone being all excited to see the act. I mean, the sun is, you can't run away from it. There was bits of relief and little shades of, tree shade, but whatever. But it was good. It was cool.
Overall, it was a good time.
Oh, I mean, if you're asking me, was it worth the money?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. it absolutely was. They had a VIP package as well as a regular ticket. Because of the job, I noticed those little things like, hey, is this worth all the food here? Like, it's all pricey. Like, no, it was fine. The waters were not expensive. The food was appealing to everyone. Obviously, vegan options. I'm not vegan, but it's there. You take those things into account. I'm a dad. Yeah, I'm not a dad, but I'm the age of a dad. And I'm just like, are these bathrooms clean?
Oh no, I'm the same way.
You know what I mean?
I'm the same way.
So
okay, I'll blow that fucker up, dude.
But everything was fine. It sounded absolutely good. I kind of maybe am a little more critical about that. Because I work for a venue, so I'm used to sound being strong and and in a festival setting it could get drowned out.
Yeah,
or it
definitely.
Just loses it. And it was absolutely fine, And I mean, the last time I paid to see The Cure was probably 10 years ago, and it was well over about $100. So, and I had no complaints when I left. And even last night, I had no complaints. 2+ hours of all the hits, even deep cuts of Push and shit like that. It was really good. So, Did
anybody stand out to you yesterday?
Mogwai, for sure.
Yeah?
For sure. I mean, I've been seeing that band for a long time, and I was just I went into it I don't really vibe on the new stuff as much. I kind of like the more guitar-driven bass, drums, guitar, maybe a little bit of other stuff added to it, and they kind of keep it at that point. And it's weird, 20 years plus of being a band, you're kind of oh man, it sounds like the same shit all the time, And I guess that's kind of maybe, but early on, I liked that sound, and that's what I'm so connected to. So even though they progressed musically, I wasn't, growing with it, and still seeing it live, it makes me want to go back and listen to the stuff that I skipped out on. So they were fantastic. Deftones the same way. I've been seeing that band I was just texting Jose because he was excited and telling me dude, I was able to photograph them. It's not a bucket list band, but it's definitely a band high on my and they're definitely a very photogenic band I'm sure we'll talk about photography soon.
Oh yes.
But he was telling me, he was like, dude, this is great. And I was like, yeah, well, the set list itself was fantastic. It's gonna people who never saw them. I'm sure not the marriage, but the pairing of Deftones and Cure doesn't make sense to some people. But
yeah, it was a little random.
But to some people, it does make sense, considering if you're a fan of the Deftones and you kind of know some of their influences, like they've covered Duran Duran and
that's true.
They've done Depeche Mode covers, so it kind of makes sense. But also, there's that, related to heavier music, that they just don't see the connection to the Cure. So it was an interesting pairing, but it made sense. And even set list wise, for people who probably just never listened to them before, because they're probably just strictly Cure fans, probably heard something that was like, oh, that is kind of sounding, like an influence of this, or so. I thought set list was fine, and the Pixies are the Pixies. I mean, they're fucking great.
Yeah.
So, even then, like I was like, oh, I've seen them a bunch of times. I'm just gonna sit on this grass, and even then, I found myself getting up and being like, holy shit, like, I gotta get up for this one, like get off my lazy ass, But it was great, and the Cure was It was fantastic.
Do you have like a preference on festivals and just like intimate shows? Like, how do you feel about that?
I'm definitely not. I mean, sometimes people will be like, I saw Toto fight in a basement, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure that's great, man, but I want to see them, like, on a full sound stage, and, like, like, I think if you're good, no matter what your setting is, I think it's gonna, I mean, I remember when I was discovering, before I got into punk, and, I mean, I always knew what, like, Sex Pistols and Social D was, and, like, those kind of just stereotypical, top-of-the-mill, punk 101 kind of bands. When I was younger, I was way into Britpop and shoegaze. I didn't know shoegaze was really a topic at that time. It was just like alternative rock, and this is like early '90s. So I loved like Stone Roses and obviously Oasis and Pulp and those kind of bands. Even early Radiohead, I loved. More British, UK bands, guitar-driven bands, but and then which led me into like bands like Catherine Wheel. And stuff like that, and I didn't know that was a genre called shoegaze. So I kind of lost the topic. What was I?
What do you prefer?
Oh, sorry. Okay, so when I was getting into those bands, people were like, "Oh yeah, I saw those bands in like these small little clubs and like 20 people." I'm like, "Yeah, that doesn't sound appealing to me at all." Like, no, like so I don't get. For me personally, I kind of like seeing a band in any setting. I mean, it doesn't. I don't prefer one over the other. As long as it's good, it's good. I mean, I think punk definitely has a lot of energy, and hardcore has a lot of energy when it's a smaller, intimate, not on a big stage with a barrier. I mean, obviously, and that's obvious.
Yeah.
But I think like sometimes sound systems can, one way or the other on how a band sounds live. But I mean, I've seen great bands on record, terrible live, but the energy's there, so it's fine. I've seen My Bloody Valentine where I'm just like, my ears are fucking wrecked, and I'm wearing earplugs.
Oh yeah, I saw them when they played LA. I think it was last year.
Yeah.
And my ears were ringing for like 3 days, and I was in the very back.
So was I. Like I actually went a little bit by the soundboard because I was like, if it sounds good here, these guys are controlling everything. Like that's where I want to be, and I happened to have been right by like a AC vent. So I was posted.
I was drenched in there.
but I get some people were, they weren't complaining, but they were just like, I didn't think it sounded that. And I was like, I get it, but the energy that they had and the set list that they were doing was perfect. It was great. But I get it. Some people's perspective. For me, I mean, if it slaps, it slaps.
Yeah.
I don't care where it is. If it's acoustic, if it's, on a huge stage or whatever, I think, if it's good, it's good. I don't really prefer one over the other. I just think I like live music in general.
Just in general?
I mean, I think listening to something like all the time, like in your car or at home, like that's your personal choice to listen to something. Like it's not like listening to the radio where they dictate what you're going to hear.
Yeah.
Like, you listen to something over and over and over again. You listen in the shower, on your way to work, whatever. You drive home. You're going on a long drive, whatever. And sometimes you hear it so much, you're excited to hear it live.
Yeah.
And I'm never like, oh man, they're playing blah blah blah, like the Hollywood Bowl, and I'm like, yeah, dude. Like, first time I saw Morrissey was at the Hollywood Bowl. I was on the lawn. And he was like, he looked like 6 inches tall, like but the setting and all that is great,
Yeah.
So I don't really prefer one over the other, but I just enjoy live music in general, just to see how it is live.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. It just depends on the atmosphere,
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like just the performance of the band, especially like. I mean, if they're good live, it doesn't matter where you're seeing them as long as they're putting on a great show, you know?
I mean, I think we've seen bands that probably don't transcend well live, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's you know, you're kind of like, oh wow, that was pretty rough, you know. And not necessarily the sound; it could just be the performance itself. You know, the singer, or you know, she may not be on, you know, top notch, or drummer's sloppy or whatever. It's just you kind of that's the experience, though. You know, at least you have that experience.
And sometimes it's like vice versa. Like you say you see a band live you've never heard of this band. You're like, oh wow, this band's incredible.
Right.
And you go check out like their recordings, and you're just like,
oh yeah. I'm a nerd. I mean, I'm a nerd now, but when I see a performance, no matter who it is, this is really nerdy, but I'll make a playlist of the set list that I just saw. Like I research it, I make the playlist, and I'll listen to it, so I can revisit songs or whatever. And I'm just like, oh wait, like they did this part, or you know, there's. I do that a lot with Nick Cave, and there's elements live that are not on certain tracks, where it's like Warren Ellis will play the violin, or you know, these other trinkets and machines and xylophones and whatever, and I'm just like, oh wait, so it's a different experience where you're like live, I'm getting all this extra stuff, or am I getting it more stripped down, and then when you listen to it on record, it can give a new perspective.
yeah,
Both ways.
yeah, definitely.
So good or bad.
Yeah,
good or bad. But I also kind of think like when you see artists and they dip into an older track and it kind of gives new life to that track. Necessarily, you know, maybe the song wasn't recorded good the first time, but you know, as growth happens and years go on, they could revisit it and it sounds better, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I kind of like that, you know. I kind of like that, like, but I mean, you know, that's just my preference too.
Because like I had an experience like that with the Locust actually.
Okay.
Because I mean, a lot of people I know, they're really into the Locust.
Sure.
I never got into that band, but I went to see them play with Bastard Noise in San Diego a few years ago, and they were headlining. So I was like, you know, once they go on, I'm just gonna chill outside. I'm tired.
Sure.
But they blew me away.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
Their performance was it was incredible. I was so mesmerized by their performance.
Yeah.
I was like, man, like, what am I missing then? So I went back to the recordings afterwards, and I still felt the same way.
Yeah.
So, like,
that's
a band I guess I just like live.
Yeah. I could, excuse me, I saw Locust and this band called Arab on Radar. This is years ago, and the opener was this band called Lightning Bolt.
Oh.
And I'm not really into their records, but live, and I remember... I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, the dude's playing bass, but it's only got, like, 2 strings, 3 strings. You know, and it was just, from an outsider's perspective, it was goofy.
Yeah.
But the energy was there where I was like, wow, like, there's a lot of a very, like, unavoidable sonic, you know, level going on that I was kind of found myself being, not just entertained, but, like, mesmerized. Like, I was like, wow, this is fucking crazy. Like, this is good. I went to go listen to the records, and I was like, oh, yeah, it just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
It just doesn't do it for me, you know? That's not to say it's not a bad band, but I think sometimes a live experience is a totally different, you know, Sonic Youth is one of those bands where it was like, I listen to it all on record all the time, but live, there's just such screeching noise and so much going on that I was like, ugh, like, this is great. Like, I don't know if I really like all of it, but I did. You know, because it captivated me as opposed to just being a crystal cut version of, you know, the recorded versions.
Yeah.
So
to kind of stray away, get a little personal with you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I've never met you before today, but I mean, from the point this conversation has started, your knowledge in music is like blowing my mind.
No.
So what I want to ask you is, where did you grow up, and how did that environment kind of correlate with the music that you listen to now, or just from what you did listen to back when you were growing up in that area or areas, and to now?
I grew up in Covina, California. I lived there till I was with my family till I was about 17. I graduated high school at Northview, and music for me, my parents went through a separation when I was about 9 or 10, and I'm the oldest of all my brothers. So when my parents were, you know, separated, and I was kind of getting into passing my time on my own. You know, when I was staying with my mom or I was staying with my dad. And I was very, very much into whatever pop culture was. You know, movies like, you know, Jurassic Park and whatever. And music itself was, you couldn't escape it. You know, it was all of, you know, radio, MTV. There was so many avenues for music. So everything from like Guns N' Roses to Bobby Brown to Janet Jackson, like I was way into it, you know. And I think I can honestly say, because of my parents being separated, I had a hard time sleeping. And as a kid, I didn't know it. Like, I was just like, oh, I just don't sleep. Like, you know, well, I was like everyone else. I was basically having insomnia.
Yeah.
So I would stay up late and I would watch TV, you know, and I would watch MTV. So on MTV, they would show, they had this show called Postmodern MTV, which basically everything that didn't fall into pop, rock, hip hop, whatever. And it was all your real eclectic, synthy kind of bands or whatever. And I saw that I remember I was 11. I stayed up late and they were like, coming in at number 7 is Morrissey and Last International Playboys. And I was like, this is terrible. Like, this is god awful. Like, I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Like, but I was soaking it up because that's what was being out there.
Yeah. And
to pass the late nights that I couldn't sleep. So I would go to school and I would see all these kids, you know, like wearing, you know, whatever music was popular. And probably influenced by their parents. And my parents were basically not influential to the music I was listening to. So I was finding out stuff on my own. So I was like, oh, like, I see that. I know that shirt. That's 9 Inch Nails. Or like, you know. So I was kind of waiting to see if those videos would pop up, Postmodern MTV. And little by little, I was finding different radio stations on the radio, not just... there was a butt rock hair metal station at that time called Pirate Radio, and it was just everything that, you know, hair metal. But every once in a while, they would play something really cool, you know, like something that was a little bit more thrashy, a little bit more... So I kind of liked, you know, no one was telling me, hey, like, listen to this, but I was little by little I was finding out my own sound and stuff that I was into. So I think it's stereotypical and I hate it, but once Nirvana came around, it was super catchy and it was not like anything that I had seen or heard. A music video, I'm sorry, it was the Smell Like Teen Spirit. I was like, I went to a record store to go buy the single for Smells Like Teen Spirit, and I saw there was like another record of their previous album, and I was like, oh, they got other albums. And so I saw it was on Sub Pop, and I saw all this other stuff on Sub Pop. So little by little, I started getting into I started finding myself digging out other bands because of labels or because it sounded like so and so, or I was like, oh, I know that band, that's Dinosaur Jr. Like, I saw their video. And so I think that's where it started, was just little by little, the late nights of being young and kind of, I don't know what's going on in my real life, but my own personal life, I was being a sponge for all types of music. And it wasn't just alternative music. It was, alternative music was definitely the new thing. You know, Beastie Boys and, you know, what have you, and Sonic, you know, Dinosaur Jr., all those kind of bands. But I think, I remember reading an interview, and I don't want to butcher this quote, but it was something like, Kurt Cobain was interviewed and he said, for every Nirvana, there's 20 other bands that sound exactly like us that you'll never hear of. And I remember that stuck with me because I was like, well, what other bands are just as good as they are? And I mean, some people will say, well, so-and-so is better than Nirvana. But it's like, it's true, though. There is, even in hip-hop, it's the same way. Yeah. You know, if you like this Bay Area rapper, there's probably 20 other acts just like that you'll probably never hear of because it just probably never had a breakthrough single or hit or whatever. Same with metal. You know, and I mean, obviously we all know the big four, you know, like Metallica and Slayer and all that, but there's other bands that are just doing the exact same thing. Yeah. So I think at a young age, I started little by little, it fascinated me, you know, and being a young kid and growing up and going to high school, it's like, you know, you just saw girls, you know, I was playing sports and music was always that thing for me. It just seemed natural. It seemed little by little, it was just becoming a passionate thing for me. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's things I definitely listened to when I was younger that I'm embarrassed of today. But, I mean, we'll talk about that later, I guess, because it's like, you really shouldn't have guilty pleasures. Yeah, you know, you like what you like.
Yeah, exactly.
Simple. You know, you like what you like. And there's definitely things I listen to where I'm just like, oh, my God, I was really into that, you know? Like,
what was it?
Oh, man, dude. So, well, I'll say what I passed up. Okay, so I was way into like a lot of like the. This is gonna sound not like Pennywise. I was into like those bands. I still listen to them today, but there was a lot of like adjacent like sister bands of those, like on that label where it was like Guns and Wanker and like 10-Foot Pole and shit. And I was just like, oh no, man, like that's just. I mean, it's doo doo. But I would not listen to those bands. I mean, I was listening to those bands and I was passing up like bands like Biohazard and shit like that because I was like, that's way too hard for me. But it really, I mean, now I listen, I'm like, oh, that sounds, Life Agony sounds way better than all the other shit I was listening to back then. You know, I wouldn't even say that stuff is guilty pleasure. It's just crap, but whatever. But anyway, so back to your question. So when I turned 17, my family relocated to Upland, and my parents wanted to wait till I was. So my parents stayed together; they didn't separate. And I have younger brothers, so they wanted to relocate to Upland. They have a bigger home, and for my kids, for my brothers to go to a better schools. Yeah. So when I was out there, I was 18. I had my own car, and I was kind of doing my own thing. And Doctor Strange is around the corner, so I was going there, and I was basically just soaking up everything else that I was into. I mean, I liked punk, and I liked alternative music, and I liked, I was never really into ska, but ska was a big thing at that time as well.
Yeah.
And I don't diss on ska, but I'm just saying, like, it just wasn't my thing,
Yeah.
And even then, like, discovering bands like Chaos UK and, a lot of those kind of bands, I was like, oh, wow, like, I never really dug my teeth into those kind of bands because I was mostly into everything that was Pearl Jam related.
Yeah.
Or whatever was being pushed on popular radio. So I started seeing, bands like Crass and stuff like I was like, wow, these are really true do-it-yourself bands. So that kind of introduced me to the do-it-yourself thing, which is obviously leads to Discord.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I think Discord, once I just started discovering Discord and the earlier releases that they had, just completely blew my mind. Like, and I know that sounds cheesy because everyone's like, oh yeah, I discovered Minor Threat and, Straight Edge. And it's like, no, man, like everything else, and not just that, like everything else was just fucking pissed and fantastic. And, and there was no barcode on the releases. So it kind of made you feel like I'm not buying a product.
Yeah. I'm
buying something that's like personally handmade, and that is kind of sets you see the difference between that and what was being sold at Virgin Megastore and Tower Records. I worked at both Virgin Megastore and Tower Records.
When I met you when you worked at Virgin Megastore.
We'll talk about how we met too, because that's actually kind of cool too. It's funny how it all came full circle on that one. But yeah, I think that just finding out music, digging for music, skateboarding was never like a huge thing for me, but when I was younger, 8 and 9, whatever, every kid on my block had a skateboard. I needed one, and I'm goofy, man. I was pushing Mongo and shit, man. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, like I mean, I didn't. But with that skate culture, there was music and everything else, and everything that people were into, and tagging. Graffiti and stuff like that. Like it became, there was like at that time, late 80s, I kind of felt like there was two aspects to skateboarding. There was the dirty punk rock aspect, and then there was like the surfer bro dude side of it. I definitely was more related to the punk side of it. So I was hearing bands like Suicidal and stuff like that, things that just kind of stereotypically went with that. Yeah. And I little by little, skateboarding introduced me to hip hop, like Del the Funk Homo Sapien and stuff like that. And I should say that Ice Cube's Death Certificate was like my Nirvana's Nevermind. I mean,
it's a great album.
It was pissed, it was angry, it was fast. I mean, it gave me chills. Like, I was like, I shouldn't be listening to this. Like, this is fucking mad. Like, yeah. But the beat and everything else, and I could not deny like the mixing and sampling of everything, just it blew my mind. Like, it just literally. So again, that also introduced me to like the Bomb Squad, the producers and all that, and it introduced me to Public Enemy and stuff like that. So I kind of backtracked a little on there, but
it's okay.
But music, just seeking out music little by little. But it started at a young age, worked it all the way its way through today.
But it affected you so much.
It did. It really did, because like I feel music is a phase for some people. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You're into it for 3 years, you bounce out, you liked Miley Cyrus, whatever, you're over it. It's cool. That's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that, you know? We see it now.
Yeah.
Like emo night. We see it now.
Yeah.
People are so emotionally connected, like Finch and blah blah blah, and it's like, okay, cool, that's great. That's a time period for you, but it's like that's long gone. You know, those bands aren't active no more. Like, did music stick with you enough to where you care about it today, or are you just excited when, Say Anything comes back through and plays a record all the way through that is second tier that nobody gives a shit about, but you do, so you'll go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that. I don't know why I got into that right now.
That's fine.
Well, since you went on that rant, I want to ask you something.
Sure.
Would you say all those people are mostly like relying on like nostalgia, I guess?
It is.
And then it might have something to do with the fact that
because
it's
nostalgia's cool.
I guess.
I mean,
but it might have something to do with the fact that I don't want to sound like a dick, but
no, go ahead.
Do it.
Go ahead.
But those people that participate in that kind of just are having trouble moving on, I guess.
Yeah, letting go, moving on.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, but I mean, it also kind of ties into like, there's a generation of kids who like anything vintage, anything that's secondhand,
Yeah.
it does, it's just, people are discovering it for the first time, but the people who were around at that time and just like, I mean, I'm guilty of it. I DJ around town and I'll do a New Order night, and I mean, that's probably a bad example because they're still a band, but they're more known for their songs of yesteryear.
Yeah.
But I love it, I think 2 weeks ago, my girlfriend and I, we drove down to San Diego for to celebrate a friend's 10-year anniversary of DJing a night, and it's just there's some current acts thrown in there, but let's be honest, like the main majority is all the older bands.
Yeah.
So is it nostalgia? Sure, but should we hate on nostalgia? No, but it's but
yeah, I don't think so.
no, but it's you gotta. It's 2019. Yeah.
Yeah.
you gotta get with the time. I mean, there's bands doing. If you like that sound, whatever that is, I mean, I'm not one to pass judgment on it. I probably know Drive Through Records and all that shit more than I care to really admit. But I see it, because I'll go to. So where I work at the El Rey Theater, so we host a lot of bands that are like kind of we do a lot of current bands, but there's some bands that are kind of their days have passed.
Yeah.
And I see that, I'm like, oh my god, like.
And you don't see a young person in that crowd.
No, well, even yesterday, the Cure thing, it was all people my age, 40 years old, And I was like, wow, like these people and they're loving it, they're having a great time. But it's like, I'm sure, like, you wipe all the makeup off, and the next day you're getting, so it's like. I don't know. I mean, nostalgia is not an ugly thing, but it's like, I think when
I definitely understand what you said about how this is sometimes music is a phase.
It is.
Yeah.
It is, and that's okay though. I mean, it's not for everybody. I mean, I guess we can get into that as well, or we can get into it now. Is like, I think that in scenes, there's always extreme. People will take it to the most extreme level.
Yeah.
Okay, we're talking ska, we're talking hip hop, underground hip hop, Chicano rap, electronica, EDM. I mean, people will always be, they always take it to an extreme, and whether it's the way they dress, the way that their ideology, the way that they believe, the way they eat, their tattoos, they want to throw it out that they're proud that they're in or are part of this scene. And in all honesty, I never really had scenes were never for me. They just weren't for me. But that's kind of hard to say because I'm a straight edge hardcore kid. I'm in my 40s, or 40 now, But in all honesty, I just think music itself was a wide umbrella that I saw. Like, even when I went to go see a movie, if there was like a music, I think we all seen the Ace Ventura with Cannibal Corpse. Yeah. We're like, fuck, that's sick. Because it's like, you love that because you love music and you like to see that on, and for other people it's comic books. For some people it's, the crossover of, whatever. And for me, I never really felt comfortable.
So you never really went through an actual phase or participated in again, I don't want to sound like a dick.
No, dude, go ahead.
Participated in like wearing a costume for a scene?
No, never. There was never a uniform for me. I don't think. I think if you saw me, I mean, I'm wearing Leviathan now. I'm the furthest from a black metal stereotypical, But I mean, I also love Kate Bush and English Beat and DJ Shadow. Like, it's just, I think I put out there, I wear the shirts or whatever I'm into, just because I actually like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I was going to say you actually took in the music more than.
But again, I understand that people, like, some people, they probably hear a song and they're just like, I like that one song. I don't even like that genre. We'll use Old Town Road, Lil Nas X. It's transcended.
It's crazy how popular that is.
And it's super catchy. I mean, we're talking fucking 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, people my age who are just jamming it. I listen to that song all the time. It's fucking
I love that song.
But you're right. And probably some people will never want to hear another song by that guy.
Yeah.
They just don't have that interest. They just want to hear... They want to go to Chili's and get their, happy hour, and they want to hear that song playing overhead while they're eating their, blue cheeseburger or whatever, that's fine. Like, but for some people, it goes deeper than that.
Yeah.
It probably starts, your whatever way, however you get into music, and that's okay. But for me, I think I was just sucking it up because I wasn't an outcast kid in any way, but I was just sucking it up because it was to pass the time at being a young age, and then. It's not a phase for me. I mean, but you're right.
I can see that. Yeah.
No uniform though. And I think once you start boxing, that wasn't a conscious decision. Being like, I love the Beatles, but I mean, I probably wasn't excited about wearing a Beatles shirt. I probably wanted to wear a Sonic Youth shirt when I was younger or whatever. Yeah. So, I think that uniforms. I think punk, and whatever scene that there is, as extreme as you go, you put the studs on your jacket, whatever. That's cool. Live that shit. Don't fake that shit. Same with hip hop. It's like people ride or die for the acts that they like. That's great because they're super supportive of that scene. But I think when it gets too extreme of anything, that's when it kind of you become more of a uniform.
Yeah.
I have to do my hair this way. I have to listen to these things. I have to go to these shows. And it's like, what's your obligation to yourself or fitting into whatever it is? I mean, I see it all. Well, maybe we should get to photography soon, but it kind of ties into photography. Where people are like, film over digital and fuck pixels and blah, blah. And I'm like, dog, dude, no, man, that's fucking corny, man. That's like people who say like, I don't like the MCU because I'd rather read the comic. Shut up. It's like, if it's good, it's good.
Yeah, exactly.
Plain
exactly.
and simple, right?
Yeah.
Like, and what we'll get, I mean, what it boils down to is the substance over style. That's the way I see photography. Maybe we'll jump into that.
Well, we could jump into it now. Like, when did you start getting into it?
So I started taking photos, I would say, about 97. So when I graduated high school, I went to Europe for about 2 weeks. And I went to London, I went to France, I went to Italy, Switzerland. Took a camera because my parents are like, they bought it for me for a graduation gift. And they're like, if we're sending you on this trip, you better freaking take photos, And I was like, I don't know how to work this thing. And I loved it. And the photos taking photos, I meant, everything that I saw. And what's funny is when I came back, all my film was destroyed because they went through scan, whatever. And I got like a few rolls back, but some of it was really, but it made me like, you know what? I want to start doing this. I want to start taking, at a young age, taking photos at every birthday party and backyard, whatever. It was just, it was common. But it never really struck me as wanting to do it on my own until I started wanting to capture things that I saw. Whether it was, so for a brief period, I was like 14, 15. I was into tagging, and I wasn't very good. I wasn't very good. But
what was your name?
Oh my God, this is so bad. So my first name was Arson, but with an E at the end. It was trash, dude. Like my style was real bad. And,
sounds tight.
But there was all kinds of Arsons all over the place. Like and I was just like, oh yeah, this, and I think my second name was, someone gave me Rank, and I was like, well, someone like a legit tagger gave me the name, and I'll use it. It's terrible. So when I was into that, I liked seeing people's different styles. So when I would ride the bus to Ballin Park or whatever, from Covina over to like Ballin Park and along the 60, I would see all these, hand styles and stuff, and I was like, wow, I want to photograph this. which is weird because I never really did. But it was one of the things that I wanted to capture. So when I was 18, living in Upland, started going to more shows. Had my own car, whatever. No school. I had a job. So I started going to shows, and I was like taking just disposable cameras, whatever. And I was going to anything that would allow me to bring a camera. Most shows, they have rules. You can't bring in, So, but most punk shows and even some metal shows and ska shows and whatever, the barn in Riverside, I used to go to that place all the time.
At that UCR, right?
Mm-hmm. I saw Desmond Decker there, and I regret not having my camera to take, because it's fantastic. And I was like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna make it an effort now.
Yeah.
So right after, at that time period, nu metal became a thing. So I would go see all these. I would go see all these nu metal bands, and not just like Deftones, but like real bad, like Head PE. And like some real grimy, just trash. 2 steps away from being like Cottonmouth Kings kind of shit.
Oh damn! I didn't go that far.
So I would go and I would take photos of those bands, and I was just like, I was learning how to shoot live acts, not just people there. I never feel comfortable. I should also say I would go to these shows by myself. I didn't have friends. No one was into music as wide range as I was. So unless it was going to a hip hop show, I was asking a friend who liked hip hop. Okay. Hey, you want to go see so and so with me or whatever? So if it was a show that I know like no one gives a shit about, I was just going to go myself, and I was taking photos. Mm-hmm. So little by little, I was just learning. I saw Slipknot with their first time out here at the Key Club. And they let me in with my camera, and I took photos. I don't know where those photos are today. I wish I did. But I remember thinking like, oh, these bands are photogenic, and I didn't know what photogenic meant. It just looked, good to the eye to take photos. Mm-hmm. And ever since I would say in like 2005, I bumped over to digital. It's just way more convenient, way easier. I didn't know any. I should also say that, I know we talked about coming on here and just based around the photography aspect, but it escalated from our conversation from Regional Justice Center.
Yeah, I want to bring that up.
Okay. So, which is, I talked to Ian about it a lot. Great dude. I love the guy. But he has a lot of opinions, and I love him. I love him for that, But anyway, so I bumped over to digital, started taking photos. Don't know anything about. I don't know dick.
Is there a valid argument for that?
What?
Flipping from film to digital.
That's all preference. Man.
Yeah.
It's like it's like some people who want to record live to tape. Some people want to record on GarageBand, whatever. You know what I mean? It's, but I'll talk. My perspective or my opinion on that stems from. It also goes back to substance over style.
Okay.
If you're photographing, a plant as opposed to Prince at Coachella. Does it fucking matter if it's film or not, or if it's on your iPhone? Like, does it really matter? It's the substance. It's the subject matter that's most important. It should be.
Yeah. I get really curious about stuff like that.
Sure.
Mostly because recently I've been looking into that sort of stuff. Me, myself, trying to get more into photography. And I'm kind of noticing, like, that there's a bit of a big head issue.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely,
and I don't like it.
People get on their high horse on whatever it is they think they're good at, or because they get a lot of likes for it.
Yeah, that's another thing
I
wanted to ask you too.
Dude, if it's good, it's good.
Yeah,
plain and simple. Like, here's your fucking award for shooting it on film. Nobody cares. Like, honestly, if it's good, it's good.
Yeah,
I've seen amazing stuff on film. I've seen amazing stuff on digital. And I've seen some trash shit on digital where I'm just like, oh, look at the way that they're editing this. Look at all this. But that's just my preference.
Yeah.
My suggestion to you, you got an iPhone?
Yeah.
Start taking photos. Plain and simple. Start playing with edits, just do it for yourself. Because honestly, that's what I started taking photos because it was fun. And it'll always be fun. I don't do it professionally. It's something that I enjoy doing. Yeah, there's definitely times where I'm shooting bands and I'm like, fuck, this is the 4th band I'm shooting in a row. I'm exhausted. I'm tired.
Yeah.
If I don't want to do it, just don't fucking do it. I'm not getting paid for it. I'm doing it because I love it,
Yeah.
If you want to do it and lead your profession, then those are things I would suggest YouTube some shit and learn some techniques.
Yeah.
Ask a photographer, hit them up. You know, some people don't like to give out their secrets.
Yeah.
You know, some people are stingy like that.
Yeah.
But the people who want to help you out or will be supportive.
Yeah.
Those are the people you want to connect with. Those are the people you want to support and learn from. You know.
Yeah.
If you want to know, if you want to learn some stuff, I'll help you out. You know, or
Yeah,
get,
that'd be great.
Because honestly, like I think, you know, yes, everyone has an iPhone, so everyone's a photographer now. I get it. That might actually be a phase for some people. They're like over it. You know, they're
Well,
like,
that's I keep wanting to ask you this, but because I know that I try not to bash on social media.
sure.
Just because I'm a part of it, obviously, being on this podcast.
Like, yeah.
But I know that it's Instagram being an outlet. I can't tell sometimes. The line gets blurred for me
Sure.
to see if it's like I can't tell if this dude is like capturing something unique
Sure.
or just being a pretentious douchebag.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
I think sometimes like what you throw out there, okay,
Yeah.
whatever it is,
Yeah.
you know, let's say you do an Instagram post, whatever you're throwing out there, it's like a cause that you're supporting or a movie that you think, go check this out, it's great, whatever you're throwing out there, it's always going to be subject to opinion. People are always going to be like,
Yeah.
well, they're like, wow, like why'd you do that photo in black and white? It's like, shut up, dude, that's what I like.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, you know, whatever, you know, if you're into horror films, you know, start a podcast because you're into, like, you know, that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Do you do the podcast because it's fun?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because I like, you know, I mean, I probably would not have met you if it wasn't for this podcast, and I'm really glad I did.
Well, see that.
Yeah.
I'm glad I've met you as well. I think, but keep it fun. If someone wants to take it on and be like, hey, like we want to, maybe we could collab and like you support, you know, you help us out, we help you out, you know, fine. But if it's not fun for you, don't fucking do it. Don't do it. Like just absolutely, you know, that's when you got to dial it back.
Yeah.
Because I saw that it's an arms race.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing about photography. Photography is not a fucking sport. It's not about being the best. It's not about having the, like, again, I've seen people with great technique and I'm just like, but what you're shooting is fucking trash. That band's trash. You know? But am I going to tell them not to do it? No, that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I support, so photography is an art. Whether or not people want to see it that way or not is not the point. You know, the point is that it is an art. And you got to take it. Movies get dissected. Music gets dissected. You know, actual art itself gets dissected. Photography gets dissected. It's okay. You have to have thicker skin to understand that. Not everyone's gonna like everything.
Yeah.
You know, it's trial by error. You know, I don't think I'm a good photographer. I just think I capture what I like, what I enjoy capturing, how I want to. I shot Freddie Gibbs like a month ago or whatever, and I was in the very back of the venue. And I was pissed. Like I was like, I can't get anything. It's dark lights, etc. Like I was like, fuck it. I'm not gonna take any more photos. I'm just gonna enjoy the show now because I'm flustered. And then I got home and I saw everything I got, and I was like, hey, this isn't that bad.
Didn't he end up using one of
He
your
did,
posts?
yeah. I mean, he's notorious for reposting stuff, but not tagging them. So I didn't know it until people showed me, and I was like, oh, this is sick. Like it's cool. Like I don't care about credit. I don't. Back to the Regional Justice Center thing. Basically, he said. He just posted something like too many photographers at Santa Fe or something like that.
Yeah, because he posted that picture of like I believe it was during Have Heart Set.
Sure. Yeah.
And like the stage,
it's just a mountain of
a mountain of cameras. And
first off, shout out to Sound and Fury for you know having Have Heart come back together.
Oh yeah,
playing.
Yeah.
You know, it was great. But I also like the fact that Sound and Fury does not dictate and restrict how many photographers they want on stage.
Yeah.
Because it's. In all honesty, man, if they want to do it, fine. They'll give them the opportunity to do it. I mean, stage potatoes are something else. I mean, I've never seen a band from the stage and be like, oh my god, this is fucking great. It sounds like shit up there. The monitors are all you hear, and you hear the drummer, and it's like, you know, I've never seen a performance on stage where I'm just like, oh my god, this is blowing me away. I think it's being in the audience, and being there, and whether or not you want to be at the very back or you want to be up close to sing along. Or whatever, you know, I think that's the way to truly experience an act. But that's just my preference and opinion. Shooting aspect, I've shot bands from stage. I don't really care for it. I kind of like it in the front. You know, I like to get all the energy. Going to shows, whether it's whatever kind of shows it is. I mean, I was shooting from the back for Freddie Gibbs, and I was like, oh man, I ain't getting shit. But I was happy. So it kind of takes you out of your element. Sometimes you're forced out of your element.
Yeah.
You get frustrated. You're a human being, right? Not, Also, people should know that when you take photos at live settings, not every photo is going to be fire.
Yeah.
Not everyone. Like, people get... that's probably defeating because you're like, fuck, man. Like, I was trigger happy, like, just snapping away at everything. And in all honesty, yeah, you're probably only going to get 2 or 3 shots. Those 2 or 3 shots, are they worth it to you? Only you can answer that.
Yeah.
Was it fun to you? Then who cares? Plain and simple. I've seen people, I shot a whole roll of film and I was like, yeah, that's just trial by error, man. Like, you gotta, sometimes we think we know how to do something, but sometimes we need to progressively learn, and add things to it. So my encouragement to you is just start toying with whatever. Go to Best Buy, buy a cheap little point and shoot. That's what I used to use.
Well, I gave him a digital.
There you go. Just, don't be scared to use it. Start shooting your friends. Not shooting your friends. But start photographing.
I'm down.
Start photographing your friends, your family, whatever. I don't know. Just make it apparent to go, hey, for the afternoon, I'm going to go to this winery. Or I'm going to go shoot, go out to the park or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be like, okay, I don't want to do the park no more. I want to go to the museums. I want to go I'm going to do this party. So that was the other thing was when I was first taking disposables around me, I would go to all these backyard parties. In a way now it's probably snitching, but I was taking photographs of all these people, and if those photos got out, it was like a guy who had a girlfriend who was with another girl. I was like, oh shit, man, I got to be careful about what I'm photographing. But I found myself in settings where I was like, that's what I want to capture. Is these people having a good time.
That was my main. That's what kind of interests me. It's kind of magnetic field me towards it because I started going places and doing things, and then I started feeling like I don't want to forget this. So I want to capture it.
You want to document it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
it's so hard to this correlates to my Instagram question. It's kind of hard to just not come off look where I was, or look who I shot.
Okay.
Sure.
I see what you mean.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because I see that shit a lot on there, and I'm just like, ew.
Yeah. There's definitely photos that I have where I look back and I was like, what the fuck was I thinking? But I'm like, that's a picture of Portishead, and I'm fucking glad I got it.
Yeah.
It's like, so, just do it. I think having opinions in your own style, I could teach you all my techniques, or what. I don't have techniques, but I could teach you how to change things, right? To appeal to your eye.
Yeah. But
then sooner or later, you're going to start doing it your way, your style.
Yeah.
And not just be what I know, And I think a lot with photography, we see it, it looks like filters, but everyone's doing the same edits, the same all the time.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that just gets, there's nothing unique about it. There's nothing, and I think that's when it boils down to, are you having fun doing it? Do you like what you're photographing? Because that's why I started doing my own zines, like my own photo zines. My zines have no text, no words, no nothing in it at all. I just let the photos speak for themselves. Because to me, that's all that matters. It's not about me pushing an agenda or anything. It's like, if you like what I do, cool. If you don't, that's totally fine. I've Dan Raw, which is funny because his name's not really Dan Raw, it's Dan Rowe. So
I didn't know that.
Dan Raw and I have curated quite a few photo shows, art shows, and we just basically get a bunch of people that we're friends with. I wouldn't say photography community is it's a small world. It is. Yeah, everybody knows everybody, and they may not know them personally, but everybody knows names. The ats.
Yeah.
Everyone knows who is. And a lot of times, Dan Raw would bring people that I don't know, and I would bring people he don't know, and we would just bring them together and showcase all the photos or whatever, artwork. We started incorporating artwork as well. And I think, and I did this at one speech, or I did a speech, thanking everybody for coming one night. And I said, look on these walls, and the photographers are here, because, it's like opening night. I'm like, if you have questions, ask them. Talk to them. That's... if you don't like something, then, cool, move on to the next one. If you do like something, ask them about it. Ask them, where was this at? Whatever. I think rather than just liking a photo, printing something physically and having it like in your hands and hanging on the wall is something to admire and can be inspiring. But I've also told people, if you see my shit and you don't like it, be inspired to be better than me, because my shit's hanging on the wall.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean it's great, but be influenced, be inspired by it to be like, this is trash, and I don't take offense to that. That's trash. I want to do something better. Yes, that's what I want. I don't showcase my shit being like, oh, I'm the best. This is great. Look at me. It's like, nah, dude. Like, look at this, and I'm proud of what I throw out there. But you go out and do, and just be like, I hate photography altogether because everything in here is terrible. But I mean, be inspired to maybe do your own thing, which is fine. You know, I think that's where it becomes a larger community and not just a brand, not just a filter. You know, one of my favorite photographers, Becca from Long Island. Shout out. She's awesome. She told me once that she was showing a portfolio of her photos, and someone was like, hey, what filters do you use? And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, that's her edits, you know? And I'm just, but I think in this world, 2019, that's what we think, because that's what we're used to seeing.
It's normal.
It's normal.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy. We'll go back to the Regional Justice Center thing. So Ian said there's too many photographers, and what's crazy about that was a lot of people had opinions who were not photographers. And
I saw that.
I'm like, dude, shut up.
It was very entertaining, to
oh
be
my
honest.
God, man. I was texting Ian the entire time, and I was like, look, dude. Like,
Was he being serious?
I don't think he was, but I mean, I don't know. Let's say he is. I'm going to say he is because I don't want to say he's not. I don't want to speak on his behalf. He threw it out there. Let's say he is serious. That's totally fine. He has every right as an artist or as in a band to feel that way. And I saw someone reply being like, you benefited off my photos for a flyer and blah, 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 whatever. And it's like, yeah, you know what? Like, that's going to happen, man. And that same person was like, if someone uses my photos without my acknowledgement, I'm going to report them. And I'm like, dude, don't be a cop. Just approach the person directly. Like, don't, you know.
How do you feel about that?
What?
About,
like the abundance of photographers?
Or people, or
well, that and,
people using your artwork?
Yeah.
Oh, people do it all the time. I don't care. Me personally, I don't care. Because I don't do it professionally. So I'm doing it for fun. I bought a record. I won't name the band. I won't even name the label. I bought a record probably about 2 years ago. All my photos are in the layout. No thank you to me. No nothing. No credit. And I was like, hey, you know what? That happens. That's punk, man. Straight up. You know, like, they're making money off of it. That's cool. But I mean, I can't really get on them because it's them. It's that's that band. Like, you know, I'm taking photos of them, you know?
Yeah.
So I personally will allow that to happen. I'm not on my high horse to where I'm like, I should get paid for this. Well, no, not at all. I'm there because I paid a ticket to get in, and I chose to take photos. And if a band approaches me and they're like, hey, we want to use a photo for a shirt design or whatever, we can give you a free copy of the 7-inch. And if they want to offer money, great, cool. I'm not going to send them an invoice for like, you know, fuck, you're using my shit. Because honestly, man, I mean, unless you're doing it professionally, then I get it. That's you. That's your
job.
That's your job. Okay, that's something different.
Yeah. Is that where you would understand that? Coming from that person?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But if it's for fun, I mean, it's like, you know, I don't charge anybody and do it yourself for anything. If people want to use, they ask me to help them make a flyer. They want me to, because I'd rather pour back into the do-it-yourself, personal, independent community and help that out and support that, because there isn't a lot of money being made. But if there is like a record company behind it and whatever, and they're hitting you up, and if you want to ask them for money, sure, why not? That's okay, you know. They're gonna use your stuff and put a barcode on it and make money off of it. Sure, why not? But if they deny you, then you also have that right to be like, oh, I'm sorry, you can't use my shit. And then don't be a cop and report them. Yeah. You know, just air it out. Be like, look, they used my photos. I didn't say it was cool, but what's done is done. You know, and but yeah, Regional Justice Center is great.
Yeah, that kind of rules.
I mean, they're really good. But I think Ian's opinion is totally fine.
What do you think about that?
Do you not have thick skin to where people can't say that something that you do isn't to their liking?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Okay, so look, I don't eat meat, and whether or not you do or not. If you tell me that I suggest something to you that's, you know, and you're like, this shit's trash, That's great. That's your opinion. That's your formed opinion. I love it. I think it's great. Go eat it. And your perspective is probably like, well, it's because I'd much rather eat something that's, you know, to what I enjoy.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine. The argument of Taco Bell versus Del Taco, you know, obviously the answer is Baker's, but
hell yeah.
but the thing is, you know, people, and that's okay. Like it's like, just have fucking thick skin. You know, it's no one's telling you you're a fucking asshole because you like something over the other. You know, it's just taking it stride, man. It's fine. You know, people are gonna have opinions. Like there's bands that I love. I mean, people hate, and it's like, that's cool. I mean, it doesn't change my opinion. I think that the movies that you watch, the books you read, and the music you listen to, or anything else should not dictate who you are as a person. You dictate who you are as a person. So if you're listening to black metal and they're like, fuck all humanity and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, they're hardcore for that. They're down for that shit. That doesn't mean you have to. If that's something you align yourself with, cool. Let that, you know, but it's like, just because you're into horror films doesn't mean you only have to watch horror films.
Yeah.
And just because you like hip hop doesn't mean you only have to like hip hop and you have to smoke weed and whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like, I knew what straight edge was years before I even knew I went straight edge. I knew what vegetarian was before I even, you know, the Smiths were singing about meat is murder and whatever. I was still eating meat, you know. Like, I made my decisions based upon my own convictions and what fits my life. And I think I don't like to tell people what they should and shouldn't do, but I mean, if you're happy with doing whatever it is that you want to, the bands you want, the movies you want to watch, great.
Yeah.
I mean, then that shouldn't. So Ian has a right to his opinion. And it ruffled a lot of feathers.
It did. And
I just don't understand why, though. Can you not voice your opinion in any way? Can you? I mean, obviously, there's egos get hurt. People's, you know, they get shattered. You know, kind of. You yourself in that argument, you're like, wow, like they took that a lot harder than it should have been. That happens, but I think also you have to have responsibility and accountability for the things that you throw out there as well. You know, if I throw out that I still listen to so and they're accused of something and I don't know about it, but I honestly know that they are, I got to take accountability for the fact that people are probably going to form an opinion of me on that. Yeah. That happens. Yeah. You know, Roman Polanski, you know, he was, you know, his movies are great. Some people...
He might not be, but his movies are.
Exactly. Yeah. And but if you separate the art from that, great. If you choose not to and you're like, no, that guy's an asshole because of what he did, whether it was yesterday or X amount of years ago, that's fine. That's your own personal opinion. Yeah. That's okay, you know? Yeah, I mean, honestly, man, just the photography thing, it's fun. It's great. I went to D.C. maybe about 5 years ago, and I flew out for Damage City. It was great. I flew out by myself. I took my camera. I honestly shot like 1,000 photos just of the city, not even bands. Like just everywhere I went. Falafel spots and fucking record stores and whatever. I was photographing so much shit. I wasn't taking in the city from my own perspective. Yeah. So when I flew back, I was bummed. I was like, fuck, I don't even want to touch my camera ever again. I was so bummed because I was like, I didn't enjoy the whole week that I had out there. Yeah. Then, about a week and a half later, I went to go see Title Fight at the Ukrainian. And I took my camera just by chance because I was like, you know, it's just creature of habit. Yeah. I photographed that and I was like, I'm having fun again. I went back to... So I think sometimes you can overdo it yourself, or, you know, overwork yourself on your workload, but it's like when it becomes fun, there's nothing that can take away from that, you know, your own personal fun. Yeah. You know? I think sometimes I see people now, they're at the shows and they post that they took the photo right then and there, and I'm like, dog, don't you want to go home and relax and marinate on it a little bit and edit it later? But it's like it's super fast now. Like, you know, that's just... People want to get it out there. This is where I'm at. This is the show I'm at. Yeah. I do the same thing too. I don't post the same night, but still, like, you know, you're just excited because you want to go home and work on editing some photos and have an Arizona iced tea and, you know, and chill and watch Dodger highlights and edit your photos, you know, and just, you know, decompress and be like, this is what I got. That's cool, you know. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we all do that when we're driving home from somewhere. You're looking at your day and looking at your photos, or you see your Instagram story and you're like, damn, I did some cool shit today. I want to share that. You know, that's cool. So, are we on time? Are we good?
I'm actually about to bring that up. We should probably wrap it up.
Okay, okay. Sorry,
but no, it's fine. I love it.
So let's talk about how I know Fidel. So.
Oh yeah, you guys didn't tell us.
So this is great. So I'll do the short version. So I used to work at Virgin Megastore in Ontario.
R.I.P.
Yeah, I know, man. I know. I worked there for quite a while, and what's small world is, his uncle was the receiving manager at the Virgin Megastore, and what's crazy is I met Jesse. The day Amoeba opened, I drove out the Amoeba in Hollywood. I drove out the morning of, like at 6 a.m. and I waited in line like on the sidewalk, and who was next to me? Jesse Robledo. And I didn't know him at the time, but I remembered him by his tattoos. And we didn't really talk much, but, you know, just sitting on the fucking Sunset and cold and dorks waiting for a record store to open. And I was sitting there, and I was like, and we spoke a little bit, and he's like, oh yeah, I drove out from Riverside. I was like, oh yeah, I drove out from Upland. It was small conference. That was it. End of story, you know. Then 2 years later, I started working with Jesse. And I started going to shows, and Fidel and I were like, he's like, oh, dude, you work with my uncle Jesse, you know, like, what, really? Like, what the? I mean, they kind of look alike, but, you know, you know.
We actually had an interaction before we met at a show.
Where was that?
At Virgin.
Okay, so tell me the story.
From what I remember is...
it's got to be something sick. Don't let it be something embarrassing.
No,
Were you buying, like, blacklisted or something? That'd be cool. Okay. Okay. I mean, because if it's something embarrassing, like, I came up to you and I asked you about, like, you know, this record, and I was like, yeah, that shit's good. And now I'm like, oh, that was embarrassing, man.
No, I was there. I was at Virgin Megastore, and I believe I was with Omar.
Oh, cool.
And we're, like, just shopping around for some CDs, whatever. And... you complimented me on Cold World long sleeve. I had.
Fire.
Then that's where I recognized you from the show, because I was like, oh, you work with my uncle. Like,
oh, crazy. Okay.
Yeah, that was the interact because you
See,
complimented
that's
me
good.
on Cold
Cool.
World.
I mean, if I was complimenting like an embarrassing, you know, like a band, and I'm like, oh man, well, you know, sorry, that was a phase, you know, whatever. I was a couple nights ago. We were celebrating my friend Steph's birthday at this pizzeria, and Ricky was there, and we were talking about how, like, you know. We were talking about, you know, Omar, Dory, all those kids, you know, and just like going to Riverside and like all those kids, because, you know, I'm a generation, you know, there's a gap, and those kids were at every fucking, you know, whether it was Back to the Grind or it was Pharaoh's Dance, wherever it was. What was that spot?
Common Grounds.
There you go. Okay. And even Smart City Grinds, like out in a coffee shop, like just those kids were at all those shows, just soaking it up. And I'm sure they probably look at some of those lineups and like, oh, why did I go to that show? But that's not the point. The point is that they went as pals and friends, and they met up with other people, and like that's how it, you know, like they were friendly to me. They weren't like, oh, who's this fucking old guy over here, you know, wearing a Morrissey shirt, like, you know. Like they were, and it's crazy now that 2019, you know, however many years later, I still run into those guys, and we still play phone tag. We're still. Is that nostalgia? No, that's just a friendship, right? That's just friendship over years. You know what I mean? Like, because we're not just like reliving. Hey, remember when we saw so and so and Marauder, and the guy was telling, "Don't give money to the drummer," and you know, 'cause he's probably gonna run off and score drugs or something or whatever. You know, it's like, you know, whatever. Like, we're not trying to relive that. I think making memories today, or you look back at things on your Instagram or whatever, or you find old photos, you know. It's good to look back at those things as fond memories, and sometimes they're going to trigger bad memories. Yeah, that's okay though. Leave it there. Leave it in the past. You know, if you want to frown upon it, frown upon it. If you want to gaze upon it as a great time, awesome. But I think it's where you are today and the memories that you make today, and the project. I don't know how long you guys are going to do your podcast for. Who knows? You know, you guys know each other from
until I get tired of them.
Okay, or vice versa, whatever. So you guys know each other from how?
We met through Jose, who used to play guitar in ACXDC.
Okay, cool.
So I met
Lopez,
him.
right?
Yeah.
Great guy.
That's how I met Brady.
Okay, cool. So. Okay. So, and then now, you guys are doing a project together. Yeah. And then you guys, however long you guys do it, your commitment, always keep it fun.
Oh, yeah.
Always keep it fun. You know, and I'm sure there's going to be times where you're like, oh, man, I don't want to do this today. I had a long week, whatever. I get that, you know.
Well, we've run into that already
That's
before.
Okay. There's nothing wrong with that, because nobody's forcing you to keep doing it. If anybody's going to force each other, you're going to probably encourage him like, hey, I think we should really do this, or you're going to be vice versa. Hey, I think you should really do this. If not, and you're just like, hey, you know what? I don't think this is the time to do this. I think we should do this. Whatever. Great. Communication is key to keep it interesting, because then you're excited about it, and then next thing you know, if one's over the other, then it's like, well, it's a one-sided then. You don't ever want it to get to that point. You know, you're not doing it for a profession. You know,
Yeah.
if it ever gets to that point. You know. Also, we should give a shout out to Days.
Oh yeah,
That
yeah,
band's
definitely.
fantastic. I know that they're possibly trying to come out soon.
Yeah, so
in the
Nikki
cool.
was telling me that they want to come.
Because I heard them on your podcast, and I mean, honestly, it's new music excites me still.
Yeah.
I'm 40.
Oh yeah.
I still love hearing demos. I still like hearing SoundCloud leaks. I still like I love all that shit. I still like hearing bands for the first time when they're live on like a YouTube video, even before it's even like the demos dropped. I like that. That's fun to me, and they were one of those bands where I was like, oh, this is floating around. This is cool. Like, and next thing you know, I'm just like, oh, they're still doing it. That's cool. Like, awesome. I can't say everything I listen to is great. There's just some trash out there. There's some serious trash.
You do have a good ear for it though, because I think you do.
Thank you though. I appreciate that.
Because like whenever I see you post something like of a band or any type of music, I immediately check it out. Because,
cool. Well, you sent me stuff the other day.
Yeah.
And it was great. I was like, I texted you right after that was 2 songs in. I was like, yo, I forgot what it was because maybe we should shout them out.
Quality.
Okay, there you go. The shit was great. And I was like,
they're playing in Riverside soon.
Yeah, so. You were like, oh, they're playing soon. I was like, wow, that's cool. But I think that's, same goes with movies. Same goes with comic books and whatever and everything else. It's like, I saw this band or I saw this comedian, whatever. They were really fucking funny. And then if you have an opinion, you're like, oh, that shit's trash. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I think people's egos get so bruised and hurt that it's just like, I mean, I'm also a sports fan, so I'm used to people talking shit about the teams that I like. It's okay. It's totally fine. Like,
that's your opinion, and I respect that. But you're wrong, and I hate you.
Yeah, exactly. But I like that though. I mean, I think that's we'll go back to the uniform thing. Do you want everybody in a uniform?
Exactly.
Do you want everybody to be an exact replica of, whatever bands or whatever's coming out? Like, I think that's the old Dusty aspect where it's like, oh, back in my... So I'm in this Facebook chat, whatever, like, and it's all people from my age, like 90s hardcore. And I'm probably like the middle range, 40s or 40. And someone told me the other day, they're like, yeah, back in my day. And I was like, I've never once said that in my life to anybody. Like,
I mean, I've said it, but not unironically.
You should be fucking embarrassed. My God, man. Like,
I hope I never say that.
No. Oh, man. Dude, it's because it just screams like you're talking down to kids or whatever.
Yeah.
And the guy called...
It sounds very close-minded.
He was calling us a kid, and I'm like, dog, I'm fucking 40 years old, man. Like, but again, I just thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Because rather than me getting mad, my ego being like, I'm a fucking, replying to this guy. Like, I was like, no, man, like, whatever, dude. Like, I still go to shows. I know I like what I like, and there's some shit I don't like, and whatever. Like, so. Yeah. But anyway.
But yeah, I just want to say, like, thank you for
of course, absolutely,
allowing us in your home and just bullshitting back and forth.
Ferns, yeah, it's a true nerd fest in here.
I love it in here, dude.
Thanks, man. You're more than welcome to look through records and whatever.
But thank you.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me on. I know we discussed trying to link up and do something soon, and I'm glad we finally did. If we can do it again, we'll do it again.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Did we talk about Sound and Fury? There's things that we didn't talk about.
We should do like a part 2.
Okay, cool. Okay.
We can expand
because I remember we talked about let's talk about Sound and Fury, and I've never really done like booking or helping with Sound and Fury, but I'm a hard fan. I'm a big fan of that fest, just because of I've been to the very first. I've been every year. I've photographed every year, and it's fun. And I think there's bands now that are playing that probably wouldn't have played in 2006, but then again, the sound has shifted and changed, and I think it's the palette. Look back and laugh is.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't even talk about Mindless Mutant or those kind of bands like. A lot of those bands, they played there, and that was the first time a lot of those hardcore kids heard those bands. Not Mindless Mutant, but Look Back and Laugh. Fucked Up and Never Healed and those kind of bands. And
I definitely want to do like another one.
Sure. We could totally. I mean,
So part 2 coming soon.
We'll do a part 2 soon. And then we'll talk more about Baker's.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What's your favorite combo at Baker's? Do you have one?
BRC with hash browns.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so most people don't do that. All right. Like I know.
He did that the other day, and I was like, why did I never think?
Oh my god. Okay, so you can get fries added to it. Add the hash browns with the spicy ketchup. Mm-hmm. It's so fucking good. I mean, that's that real IE shit. My girlfriend for Christmas bought me a Baker's shirt.
Oh,
And I wore it to work, and one of the guys was loading in, and they were loading in gear, and he goes, "Yo," and I looked, and I was like, "Oh, what's up, dude?" Like, I knew he was talking to me because it was in my direction. He's like, "Your fucking shirt, like, what's up? Like, is there a Baker's on?" I'm like, "Sadly not." And we ended up talking about Baker's for like 15 minutes. And he was like, "Oh man," he's like, "That shit is so good." And nothing else. We didn't talk about anything else. Just fucking fast food from the IE. Like, I mean, but anyway, yeah. So round 2, whenever there is.
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, we'll definitely
Cool.
schedule something like that. But yeah, again, thank you.
Oh,
Yeah,
Is there anything you want to like shout out? Anyone you want to shout out? Anything you want to like talk about?
Anything you want to plug?
Yeah.
No, not really. I mean, I honestly, I mean, I'm surrounded by good people. I'm surrounded by a lot of love, I work at a job that allows me to be who I am, and I could, I'm a guy who didn't even I don't have more than a high school diploma, but yet I work for Golden Voice. I'm happy, and they gave me a chance to be like an office manager. My boss is in a hardcore band. My production manager's in a hardcore band. Like, it's all love in the same world, and it's cool to see that, like, something that is a phase for some people can actually turn into more.
Yeah.
As long as you see the bigger picture. And I think that is I don't want to say a testament, but as an example that, you know what, I mean, wherever you want to go and things you want to do, you could still have fun doing it as well.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm not a hippie. I don't hug trees and all that. And I'm not like, but I think to be appreciative of the things that are around you and the things that you do and whatever, like that, people will support you in return because they see that you're happy doing what you do. No one's telling you like, well, you guys are going off topic on whatever it is, and it's like, no, this is what we want to do, and this is where it's gonna go.
Yeah.
And it should be that way.
Yeah.
And wow, I think I totally went off on the shout out.
It's okay.
But this is what I was saying. I'll just ramble.
It's fine.
I'll just
that's
totally
completely
ramble.
fine.
And by the way, did we talk about? Oh, did we laugh? Because I know we said like, hey, whose laugh is going to be louder on this, right?
I have a cackle. I don't.
Okay.
So.
My laugh. I mean, it's all. I mean, it's fucking. There's no inside voice at all. I mean,
just from that picture, like I feel like I could hear that picture.
So I went to a wrestling event, right? And everyone around me wasn't. It was like a mom and pop small wrestling event. And you like wrestling.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll talk about that next time too. I don't really know wrestling that well, but I mean, I enjoy it, And anyway, so I went to this wrestling event, and nobody around me was going crazy. And I'm like, dog, we all paid money to get in here.
Yeah.
Like, I know that we probably don't know who some of these wrestlers are, but let's fucking have a good time.
Yeah.
So I started screaming, and everyone was just looking at me, and I'm like, ah! Oh my God, man. I was like, yeah, that's me. And what's funny is a friend of mine, Jen, was in the other side, and she goes, "You're here." she heard me screaming. I was like, "Yep, I'm here." She's like, "I knew that I knew that yell anywhere." I was like, "Wow, man!" And I was thinking, like, I don't think I've ever yelled around you, so that's I'm not. I used to work at Amoeba, so we didn't even talk about that either. It was me and Jesse worked at Amoeba together.
Part two.
But nothing else to plug. Just plug your podcast, whatever. You have a shout out?
I don't. Just his podcast.
Yeah. You have a shout out?
No, just the same thing, just the podcast.
Can we shout out Baker's?
Yeah, hell yeah. Shout out Baker's.
Baker's follows
IE's
me.
finest.
They follow me on Instagram and Twitter.
Damn, that's so tight.
Damn.
Anyway,
Yeah, are you famous?
No, I'm not at all.
I love Baker's.
It's fucking. I mean, yeah. We'll talk about that. We'll get everyone's opinion on. Everybody add the hash browns. How about that? Add the hash browns to your fucking burrito.
Yes.
The fries is one thing. The spicy ketchup and everything else.
All right. Well, yeah. Once again, thank you. Thanks everybody for listening, and thank you, Bakers.